If you're new here, welcome to Larry's Library, and if you've already been coming, welcome back. This week, I read Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons, the Deluxe Hardcover. I had a lot of fun with this one, because I got mine in stock trades. They seem to be out of stock on it right now, but Cheap Graphic Novel still has it, and of course Amazon has it if you want to risk that. Yeah, this one's from Oni Press. It's 312 pages. Like I said, it's still available at many places. I don't think it's in print, but I think there's a lot still out there in the retail chain. So you should be able to get it if you want to, and you're going to want to. Spoiler. So this one it's large. It's nearly as big as a Dark Horse Library Edition. It matches up perfectly with the other Rick and Morty Deluxe hardcovers that collect the main series. Now this was a collaboration between IDW, who owns the rights to Dungeons and Dragons, and Oni Press, who own the rights to Rick and Morty, or at least they did at the time. I think they've let that go now, unfortunately. This one is written by Patrick Rothfuss and Jim Zub. Now, Jim Zub is pretty well known by everyone, and Patrick Rothfuss, I believe, is a fairly celebrated novelist before he got into comic books. And he also has been on some of the D&D shows on YouTube, like Critical Role, and some other stuff, I'm sure. And the art is by Troy Little, and he does a really good job here. The contents of this are, it's basically a collection, although there's one original story. It collects the Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons miniseries, and its sequel, which was called Painscape. And then it has another story called The Meeseeks Adventure, which is Mr. Meeseeks in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. It's something else. And it has a lot of extras in the back. It has character sheets for everyone, D&D style character sheets for all of the different iterations of the main characters. It's cool. And it has a really big cover gallery, like the regular Rick and Morty Deluxe hardcovers do. I'm pretty sure every single cover is there, including all the variants, and it's really good. It's really something looking through those covers, especially, and it's by all kinds of different artists. But the one that sticks out to me as being something really awesome is the Mike Vasquez variants. And I'll show some scans of that. Yeah, it's some super detailed stuff, and just blew me away. Yeah, this book hardly needs my endorsement. It was nominated for an Eisner this year. Yeah, it's that good. Morty meets this girl in this hobby shop that invites him to play D&D with her, And he really wants to impress this girl, and he's never played D&D before. He has no concept of how it works or any of that. So he, of course, goes to Rick and asks him if he can teach him how to play. And, of course, Rick is a very experienced D&D player. Well, we learn throughout the book. We also learn that Jerry is, too. So, yeah, loser Jerry, big D&D player. Or he was at one time. So this sets up some really interesting plot devices, and yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, but the whole family ends up thrust into the world of Dungeons & Dragons, but an alternate reality where it's a real world. So yeah, it's pretty cool. In the second story, Painscape, there is a little plot device, and it's a little bit of a giveaway. I'm going to give a mild spoiler here. We find out that what's caused part of the plot, let's just put it at that, to happen, is Rick, way back when, which it looks like it's probably the 70s for sure. In the 70s, when Rick first started playing D&D, he trashed a bunch of characters, wadded them up, threw them away that he rolled. And so these discarded characters want their revenge. And you can imagine the chaos that ensues from that. It's too good to give away much plot details, but man, this thing impressed me so much, and I really didn't expect a whole lot out of it. So, yeah, this book really exceeded all my expectations. I had no idea it was this good. I didn't know it was nominated for an Eisner. I didn't know any of that stuff, and I didn't know much about the creators, honestly. And so I had low expectations going in, and it just really blew me away. This is probably my favorite Rick and Morty comic, period. I'd probably say that I enjoyed this more than I did all 8 volumes of the main series, really. I mean, it was that fun for me, and it brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, because when I was really young, I played Dungeons and Dragons, specifically AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. The group I was with, we started out with that. And I was trying to figure out what year that was. And so I started doing a little research. This book made me do that. And I had all the hardcovers. I guess it was the first volumes, the first series, because I understand there's been like a second edition, third edition, fourth edition, like that. And they're referenced in this book too. I imagine the D&D references in this are probably really spot on because they're officially licensed, and I'm thinking that they did a lot of research, because some of the bits of lore of the game I remembered from way back then, and a lot of it probably went over my head because I've forgotten a lot of it, and then some of it's probably from later editions of the game that I haven't played, because I haven't played this game since the 80s. Anyway, so I went back to, I did a little online search and try to figure out what year it was I was likely playing, and it looks like it was probably 1980, because that's when the version of the Player's Handbook that I had and the Dungeon Master's Guide, I had the hardcovers, had all the hardcovers. And I read them cover to cover. I was probably that annoying kid that, in fact, I know I was, because I remember saying, oh, no, you can't do that, because on page 19 of the Player's Handbook or page 175 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, I would cite the chapter and verse and in the game. Yeah, I did that. But anyway, so I looked up and I found cover scans of the books that I had, and I researched and found out when they came out. And the version of the Player's Handbook I had was 1980, which would have put me at about 12 years old. So I must have started when I was about 11, because I remember when that book came out, I bought the hardcover, and we were playing the game before the hardcover came out. So I must have been about 11. And then I think the last book I remember buying was the Unearthed Arcana. And when I looked that one up, it surprised me that it wasn't published until 1985. So I was about 17. I'll show a scan of that. I remember these beautiful Jeff Easley covers, and that one's by Jeff Easley, these paintings, just beautiful stuff. And I had that book when we were still playing. We must have been about to stop, because we were kind of tapering off by high school, so I guess that's about right. So I probably played from 11 years old to almost 17, something like that. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this book, other than all the memories this brought back to me. I miss that stuff. But, I've got my fix for role-playing, over the last 20 years, or the last 10 years anyway, 10 to 15, from games like Elder Scrolls Skyrim, But I haven't played a dice and paper role-playing game since probably 1985. But, yeah. I'm old, folks. But yeah, this if you're a fan of the fantasy genre at all, even if you don't play D&D, if you're familiar with those tropes, you're probably going to love this. And if you're a Rick and Morty fan, you're absolutely going to love it. And if you're both, like I am, then you are going to just be ecstatic over this thing. Troy Little does a bang-up job with the art, and the writing is superb. The plot is there, and all the monsters and mayhem. It's fantastic. It is a hell of a read. And the last story, I forgot to mention that one, it's called the Mr. Meeseeks Adventure. And this Meeseeks box, if you know the characters from Rick and Morty, the cartoon, it somehow tumbles into an alternate reality where D&D is real. And some adventurers find the box, and they push the button, and out pops a Meeseeks, and they think it's like a djinn, like a genie, because it'll do whatever they say, and then it disappears. They think they're like little blue demons or blue djinns, and man, you can imagine the chaos that ensues from that. It's just it's fantastic. I loved it. Anyway, I give this thing a 9 out of 10 easily. It's great. If you're a fan of any of that stuff, get this thing, pick it up while you still can. Yeah, it's fun. It's a real fun ride. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, do that. Bell notify yourself so you won't miss anything coming up. And come on back for more. I'll see you next week.